What's good, YouTube? In this video, I have 5 tips for you guys to rank up in ranked arenas. Now, these tips will be more beginner stage type tips, and just because they're beginner type tips does not mean that they can't be used, right? These are tips that I feel like everyone should know so that when we get to the advanced type tips, it'll be easier to understand, right? And easier to win games. But to win games, it starts off with these 5 tips, and we're going to get it started with at number 5. You have to communicate, or if you don't have a mic or if you're not talking to teammates, then ping. Communication is key when playing team-based games. So for instances, when you're communicating, you want to communicate, if you hurt enemies, so it allows you guys to push. If you down an enemy, or even things like if you're going somewhere, right? If you're going to go get materials, you're going to go maybe flank, you're going to go to one side of the map, you're going to position yourself in a different angle so you guys could get different angles. Another thing, like let's say if you don't communicate with your teammates through a mic, then ping, right? There's multiple ways that people know that you're doing through the ping system. There's a way to tell your teammates that you're going to go attack an enemy by using the ping, and if you hurt someone, you could spam ping the enemy so your teammates know that you hurt someone and they're right there so that you guys all could push. Another way to communicate with your teammates is communicate that you're using your ability, right? Communicate that you have your ultimate, you unlocked it, because you don't start off with your ult. So if you communicate to your teammates that you bought your ult, this is good for them to know, and also lets them know that you're going to use it so that the team can use it if it's a team ability. So just communicate and ping. That's the first thing I wanted to say. I think that's very important. Now, number 4, like how we were talking about the abilities on communicating on that, at number 4 I have use your abilities. Now in Apex Legends arenas, your legend is, you have to play off your legend, right? So use your abilities as much as possible. Get as many of those abilities that you can. In this video, you see me using Gibraltar's bubble. This allows me to push enemies and hit them, right, without being able to get hit because I'm using the bubble. Use abilities like, your grapples, your jump pads to get to spots quicker. If you're using Bloodhound or Seer, use those scans because those scans will help your teammates out a lot. So just know to use your abilities and buy as many of them as you can because they're going to help your teammates, right? Because when you see your teammates and then you see the enemy squad, you could definitely base your style of play depending on what the enemy's characters are or what they're not. If they're not any characters that have, scans like a Bloodhound or Seer, but you guys have Bloodhound or a Seer, or even both, then that's good, because then you guys know that you'll always have the upper advantage because of your abilities. And because you know that they don't have any recon type of characters or any characters that can scan, I definitely recommend just get as many scans as you can, right? Use them to your advantage. Whatever legend you're using, play off their abilities, their tacticals, especially characters like Octane and Path. Play off their ultimates with their jump pads and zip lines. Gibraltar's ultimate can definitely change the game. It could win you the round. There's so many abilities, right? So many different types of ways you could play different characters. So at number 4, I have use your ability. Now at number 3 is a very basic and simple tip, and that's really just use the best gun, right? You want to rank up, you want to win, so use the best gun. I know that at times it can be cheesy to use a gun like a L-Star or maybe the Prowler, but if that's what's going to get you the win, and if you're trying to rank up, then you got to do what you got to do. So that's what I would recommend. I would recommend using the best gun like the L-Star. If you prefer other guns that you're good with or more comfortable with, then use those too. But whatever it is, if you're just losing or not doing good, and you see that your gun you're using is not meta, I'll definitely use a gun that's meta. Now at number 2, it does tie in with your gun. At number 2, I have do not grab a second gun when you're playing arenas. Now the reason I say do not buy a second gun, and this is especially in the early rounds, right? Anywhere around rounds 1 through 3, I do not recommend buying a second gun because you do not have that many materials. And because you don't have that many materials, you have to buy one gun and then base your playstyle, or you should base your playstyle off that one gun. Now, when you do not buy a second gun, this allows you to get other things like, your shield batteries, your med kits, grenades, and abilities, right? So it gets you have more resources if you do not buy a second gun. Now, there's instances where I understand where you probably need to get a second gun, because that first gun may not be versatile in different ways. Like, for instance, if you get a sniper, then I understand to get a second gun, but just know that if you pick a sniper up, you're mainly going to be that person in the back just doing damage, inflicting damage to the enemies, and you have to just play your playstyle like that, because at times there's times where you buy a second gun but you won't use it. So just know that. And if you're getting something like that's why certain guns are good, because they're versatile in so many ways, right? Like the R301. The R301 is good in all aspects, right? Mid to long range. The hip fire is pretty good for short range. Guns like the Volt is pretty good all around. The Flatline, right? Like those types of guns. But if you're going to get a gun like a shotgun, I would recommend, play up close. The best map to play with the shotgun is probably Overflow. So if you're going to use a shotgun, play that play style, right? Whatever gun you use, play the play style that you're going to use. So my opinion is, do not grab a second gun. Instead of the second gun, where it's going to be 400 to 500 materials, or even if you upgrade it, it's going to take like 700 to 800 materials. Just use that on resources like abilities, shields, med kits, things like that. Now, the first tip that I have for ranked arenas is, I think, a very easy tip to follow, and that's to, in early rounds, grab the materials, right? Think of it as, when you grab the materials, you're taking away from the enemies, so that means that they won't have those materials for the second round or the next round, and you just have more resources, right? All these tips tie in together. They're definitely going to help a lot. I would definitely tell your team and communicate with your team that, to grab a legend that's mobile and that could get to the materials faster and quicker than the enemies. Characters like Octane, Pathfinder, or even characters like Wraith and Bangalore, who have an escape ability. Just in case if they are challenged for the materials, you could grab the materials and then get away with them, right? Go back to your teammates, because you could use your abilities to get back if you're in trouble. But the first tip that I have is, grab the materials. More in the early rounds, like I said, like rounds 1 through 3. You could definitely grab materials in rounds, in the later rounds like 4, 5, 6. But, at that point in the game, in those rounds, you more than likely should be comfortable with your setup. But the more materials you guys have, the better, and more comfortable you guys are going to be. So the more comfortable you guys are going to be, the easier it is to win the round. So just grab as many materials as you can, especially in the early rounds. So this is the video. Let me know what you guys think. These are the 5 tips that I have for ranked arenas. These are more beginner type tips, but just because they're beginner type tips doesn't mean that they can't help someone who's in Diamond or Masters or even Pred. These tips are going to help everybody, but just know that if you use these tips will more than likely help you win games, win rounds, and just help you guys rank up in arenas. These are tips that I use all the time. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next one.